On desktop? What? Oh, okay. So, whenever I start mentoring reviews, one of the main things I like starting the game with is talking about win conditions. Because in games, every team comp has a slightly different way that you're going to win. Your team has a lot of ranged with Ezreal, Misfortune, and you, and only Camille to go for a front line. And she's going to be building slightly, damaged bruiser, right? She's not going to be building full tank. So in other words, you guys are going to have shit team fights. Even though you're Annie, you're going to have really bad team fights. Your team is going to want to put Camille ahead so she can split, and then you're going to want to focus on being able to burst people down with your ult and Misfortune's ult. Ezreal, if he plays it right, he should be focusing top lane too in order to get Camille ahead. So as mid lane Annie, you have a lot of roam potential, and you should also be looking to try and get Camille ahead. The enemy team has an okay amount of pick with the Lux and a pretty damn good team fight. They got a lot of objective control with Tristana, and they, with the Malphite can engage anything they want to, Malphite and Nami. So their team has a lot of engage, a lot of siege, and a lot of pick. Your team has split push. And I guess pick. That's what I was talking about with the Annie and Misfortune. But no real team fight. If you guys get into a stage where you're just grouping and both teams are even, you're going to lose. If you're ahead, things change because you can make worse decisions and have them play out, and it's fine. But the general just team comp, you're going to want to get the Camille ahead. And versus Lux with Exhaust, you should have a pretty easy lane like what you were saying. I also only turned on your team's vision to try and explain a little bit about vision during the game. Uh, it's always good to be able to track, and I want to try and show you what to look for with what you see. So you're doing an okay thing watching. I don't like it whenever my mid laner watches topside. I prefer whenever they're watching down here because you gave them a really easy invade path. If you're going to go and watch topside, then ward this first and then walk over to topside. I really don't like it unless your jungler's starting here. It's a way that you can give free kills in the beginning of the game. Okay, well, it's not good to forget about caring about it. Remember how I said that, like, I've had students go a lot up in ratings and some only go a few? One of the things is forgetting to care about things. Not getting out of base fast enough, not getting into position to provide vision. Those are cheese ways of losing games, and if you don't care about it, then you don't care about winning. It's it's a basic thing that you need to be thinking about all the time. So you get a little bit of ward vision on their blue, and you were doing something here, I guess. You're pretty good at managing waves. First time that I would like to mention, timer that I would like to mention, is at 3-ish minutes, the faster clears are going to finish their buffs. So you can watch your Ezreal, and you'll see at 3-ish minutes he clears this. See, he's looking for a gank, 3 minutes. Now, if you have a good wave, which you're in a really good position to actually get Ezreal to gank for you, I would actually call for Ezreal to come and gank mid. There's nothing he's going to get top, and the only other option he has is cheesing their blue. So I would be pinging for him to come mid, because she doesn't have cleanse, she has exhaust. You can easily have stacked up a stun and been ready for this. And the way that I like talking about pinging and shot calling and stuff is if you think you are better than the people you are playing with, then you better be the one making decisions. So pinging and stuff like that, if you don't ping, start pinging. If you don't tell the jungler, hey, we can kill this guy, come gank mid, then they're probably going to ignore your lane. Because you know what? They're a worse player than you in this scenario, so they're not going to notice that. So you want to make sure that they know. Right here, I would be calling for a gank. Your jungler was coming, and you didn't set up a stun. You were managing the wave. And you got it in a really good spot. This is a really good spot to get a gank. Now, alternatively, if you were on the flip side of this matchup, at 3-ish minutes is whenever you're going to want to make sure you have out vision. Now, trinket-wise, you've already used your trinket. I think is this yours? All right, that's a really shitty ward. A really shitty ward. Because the jungler's not going to come from down here on a standard clear, and you can tell where they started by a really easy trick. They're not here yet. So you know where the jungler started. Now, is the Rek'Sai going to cheese gank you? No, he's not. He's not going to cheese gank you. Lux started E. Like, they're not going to cheese gank you, and for some reason you decided to ward down here. That's wasting your trinket for whenever you should be warding for where you're going to get ganked from. You're going to get ganked from over here. If they're coming to your lane at 3 minutes, which is when they should be coming to your lane, they're coming from over here. Now, Rek'Sai could tunnel under this, yes, but if he tunnels under here, you have more time to walk away anyways. So you would want to just get your vision out somewhere over here. Makes sense, right? This is a complete waste of a ward. And whenever you waste your resources like this, you're giving up pressure on this side of the map because, as I said, on this flip side of the matchup, it's the Ezreal that's clearing faster. The Ezreal can gank you from over here, and you had no knowledge of this. So your Ezreal's going for the invade, and since your Ezreal's going for the invade, you need to be pushing this out fast, so that way you can respond. I don't know if you're doing that. You're holding abilities. Yeah, you should be trying to clear that out a lot faster. And you do spot Rek'Sai over here, but he shouldn't have been clearing like this, and he got punished for it. Ezreal took his blue buff. So because he was clearing like that, suboptimally, he, is going to be put behind. So your ward shouldn't have seen anyone. And now you're getting that gank that you were talking about, but Ezreal was calling for it. Right? You play that okay. Yeah, you play it okay. You get hit by some things, but it doesn't really matter. And you manage your mana pretty well. I don't really know why you guys are hunting this down. I wouldn't be looking for this. I would be pushing out your wave because this is going to get in a bad spot. And they got it anyways. One of the things you want... Okay. If he goes in and dies, then there's no saving him. But think about it this way. Ezreal's got a lot more mobility than you do, so if Ezreal's chasing him down, he's going to get there first. Bottom lane, look at where bottom lane was pushed to. Look at where your lane is, and look about what Rek'Sai is going to get by just recalling over here, if you let him recall. He's going to get 80 gold, and he's going to recall. You're losing out on probably 250 gold and denying them 250 gold for chasing down this thing. The maximum he could get here, if your team just let him go, was 80 gold. Now, your team is responding because they had pressure on this wave. I told you that you wanted to push this out fast so you could respond. The alternative is you just lose where you could have created an advantage. Over here, this wave, if it was pushing into them faster, already been at turret, you would have been able to come to this. But instead, you're going to be losing something by responding to it. It's getting there, but you should try and push this in. You really should have pushed that in a little bit extra. Yeah, well, Lux was going to have to clear out that huge wave. If Lux wasted her time to chase you down, you know what her lead would have been? An amp tone and potions. And if I remember right, she used her summoner. No, she didn't use any summoners. Wow. Okay, never mind. But she still would have had to have cleared out this wave, or you would have denied her extra money. So she wouldn't have been able to stop your recall. You would have pushed it in. That would have taken you an extra 2-3 seconds, and then you would have gotten back. Okay. You're getting a ward out here, and again, this is a very bad ward. Whenever you're watching the timer... Yeah. Um, you need to be thinking a lot more about jungle pathing. So at the start of the game, the jungler is here at 2 minutes, he is here at 3 minutes, and he is looking for a gank between here and here at 3.5 to 4 minutes. If you don't see him here to here in 3.5 to 4 minutes, then he's either doing a full clear, which means he's going to end up bottom again, or he's based, which means he's going to end up bottom again. So about 4 minutes to 6 minutes, he's going to be doing like this slowly. So as it approaches 6, he's going to be up here. But you know how long these last? These last 60 seconds. So he's not going to be seen by this. So if you wanted to catch vision, you would have been seeing him doing his raptors, which are probably going to be spawning in like 30 seconds and then looking for a gank on you. Yeah, see, his raptors are up. And then he'd be looking over here. Um, let's see about your wave management. And because you went to get this ward earlier, you lost this wave pressure, and you took all of that damage because you went to get this worthless ward. So, I don't typically like talking about builds. Lux is a pretty good poke lane, and you're a pretty good all-in lane, so this is okay. But if you're starting to fall behind, you need to build more damage. So again, this is fine. One thing that I did notice whenever looking at your op.gg is your build is always the same, which is actually troubling. So in this matchup, I think it's okay, but I don't think it's okay in every matchup to be building the exact same thing. If you look at Anibot, he builds like 100 different items. He may favor some, but he really varies. So if you remember my win condition earlier, the Camille needs to be getting ahead. So that's actually that's not true at this point in the game. I would be looking to try and push this out and look for a roam top lane. It's in a good spot, and your bottom lane is always pushing in their team. You know the jungler is probably bottom right now. See? Probably bottom right now. And then you're going to be looking for a free top lane gank. Okay. I noticed that whenever you start falling behind, you no longer look for trades, and you get really scared of even using spells on the minions. I don't know if you're trying to conserve mana, but Annie's Q doesn't cost any mana, so that doesn't make sense why you wouldn't at least be queuing more regularly. Her W, though, okay, I can understand you not wanting to use that. She killed you anyways, though, and you weren't stopping to cast spells, so that worked out. Yeah. Uh, yeah. You're getting hard bullied because you're never going for trades and you're just letting her harass you. So as I said, this is a poke lane, you're an all-in lane, and you're not playing it to your strengths, you're playing to her strengths. And if you had done any trading throughout the lane so far, this since she came back, that would have been enough damage to kill her. But she was full health because you were never even fighting her. And now you're staying, which is really risky. I would have recalled there. Yeah, but if you're not going to get the kill, then the only thing that can happen is, like, you weren't able to chase the Lux down because the Lux left after that, right? The only thing that can happen is the Rek'Sai comes in at you, or that. One of the things that you want to be thinking about is not necessarily kills, but what can you get after you get kills? Remember how I was talking over here? What the hell would Rek'Sai get on this side of the map whenever he was over here? 80 gold? Well, if you flashed and killed Lux here with Tibbers, right? You had saved Tibbers, you weren't recalling, that's why you went and killed Lux. Well, you weren't going to be able to get anything. You weren't going to be able to get mid-turret, you probably weren't going to get Dragon, because guess what? Rek'Sai was still here, and you know what would happen after that? You would recall. You would recall with 300 extra gold. That's all. That's all that would happen here. Now, if you had saved your flash for a more important fight, you would have potentially been able to get the 300 gold from that kill, but also a global gold for your team. You know, this tower, this objective. You might have been able to rotate over for Dragon. So in that time, whenever you were saying, oh, I have the knowledge of I have flash and I have Tibbers, great, yeah, but then you should use it for a fight that matters. Instead, you stayed for this to potentially get 300 gold and a wave. Okay, but you weren't going to get anything after it because you had no health, Ezreal had no health, Rek'Sai was nearby. There was no reason to stay. Camille is actually putting herself in an okay spot with CS, but she's still dying a lot. See, this is the wave control I'm talking about. Push it in, and you know what? Okay, you pushed it in, great. But what do you do once you push it in? Whenever you're sitting around like this, you are essentially AFK. If you don't do anything once you push it in, if you don't harass, if you don't, if you don't roam and get something, you are essentially AFK. Because you pushing that into tower does nothing but make you vulnerable to a gank. So you're pressuring the Lux, but you know what? She's still got all of that CS, and now you're back to the wave, and now it's pushing into you, and you're afraid to use abilities. So in that time that you were like, yeah, I just forced Lux off the CS, she got all of it, you wasted your time that you created, and now it's pushing into you again. So now she has the advantage in this lane. And if you're thinking that, oh, I'm freezing it here so I don't get ganked, well, you're also, you know how many times Ezreal has ganked for you because your wave's in a position like this and you haven't gotten anything? Does that tell you that maybe this wasn't the best strategy? It should. It should tell you that it's not the best strategy. What you could have done is looked for something top lane because Camille died again, and if you were up there, maybe you could have turned that 2v2, like, into a 2v2. Because Rek'Sai ganked her again, because guess what? Rek'Sai doesn't have to give a shit about your lane because you're already losing, you're already pushed into tower. All he has to do is go top or bottom. So whenever you're thinking that you're benefiting yourself or your team by freezing it on your turret, that is one of the worst things you can do. You want to put pressure on the enemy by pushing it in and then looking for something somewhere else, getting vision or ganking. Whenever you just do that, and then you sit here and you try and harass, only putting yourself vulnerable to ganks, and you're wasting your time. I'm actually happy that you did go in there. As I said, the only way Annie wins this is by going in. I think that you were just a little bit behind with items. I don't know if that would have been a huge difference, but maybe. Yeah, it was close. But that is what you want to do in this lane, and I'm sure you know that. So, um, good maneuvering, better than just letting her harass you. Another trick to know where the jungler is, it's really easy to predict him up until about 7 minutes. And then the only thing you really can rely on is this. Whenever their camp is spawning soon, you know that they're going to be on this side of the map soon. Whenever it's up, they're probably there. So right now, I would assume that the Rek'Sai is heading to Raptors. That's what I would assume. And I was wrong this time, but he was on the bottom side of the map. And you're again pushed in, and if you were pushed out here, right, you could be looking to maybe even steal their blue buff because you have vision control on it. You could be looking to get involved in this because maybe your team wouldn't have won it without you. Instead, you're AFK. And whenever you're just waiting between waves like that, I'm a little bit happy that you went over here because whenever you are disappearing, you're creating some pressure just by going missing. But at the same time, you didn't really do anything. There was no reason for you to go over here right away. You know what you could have done is right here. So you know that the Rek'Sai is down here right now, right? You know that he probably just got his red because you see his red on. We don't have vision on the blue buff anymore. And we know that he's probably going to be tracking up here soon. Well, one of the things you could do is to prevent this Camille from dying so much is by warding right here. And if you have time between waves, and you always want to get pushed in anyways, apparently, if you ward right here, you see him on Gromp, you see him on blue, and you see where he goes afterwards. And if your Camille still fucking stays whenever she sees the Rek'Sai doing his camps, then there's no helping her. But that's one way you can help other lanes without actually ganking, because Malphite isn't here right now, and since Malphite isn't here, you know Rek'Sai isn't here, you could have gone over here, right? It's safe. But you just go and you kind of sit here, and I know you killed a Rek'Sai tunnel, but that's not important. And then you come back to get pushed in, I think. Actually, no, you're not getting pushed in this time. That's a little bit better. But you see, this is the example of what I was saying earlier. She was able to come over to this fight because she pushed the wave in. And again, then since you are not pushing the wave out, you are giving her lane priority, which means she is more relevant in this game than you are, until you do something spectacular in a team fight. And you know what? Your team's not going to win team fights if you're even. So, it's a pretty tricky game right now. And you AFK again. Let's see. I wouldn't have expected Rek'Sai to come from bottom. I don't think. Yeah, I wouldn't have. I would have thought he would be on his top side. Yeah, okay. I think that you did an okay thing going in there, but and I don't think that I would have expected the Rek'Sai to be down here. I would have expected him to be trying to secure his blue buff, which he's been ignoring. Um, so I think that was fine. Yeah, I think that was fine. There you go. There you go. Get wave control. Okay. And now AFK again. Alright, look at this now. They have no tower. How easy would it be for you to come down here? You know Rek'Sai is not going to be down here because he has no camps to come down and kill these guys. If you have your ult, Protobelt, and Flash, they're both dead. Every time between, like, waves, I like the pink ward over here because you think the Rek'Sai is going to be coming over here, but at the same time, you could be using it to give yourself roaming opportunities towards bottom now. Because your bottom lane is carrying this game. I think Ezreal's been helping bottom, or maybe he's just solo killing. I haven't been paying too much attention. That's a really bad habit. But you see, this is what I was talking about. This ward opens up for roaming. Someone else on your team did that, and that gives you a lot of potential to go down bottom. You've been using your trinket, but a lot of the wards that you're placing this game are not smart. Even if you're getting out these wards, like this is your most recent, right? You just used your trinket. Is that you? Yeah. This is a terrible ward too, because you're not going to get any extra knowledge from this ward that this one doesn't already give you. Because if you're going to be playing over here, right, and Rek'Sai comes through this way, right, that ward's not going to see him. And if he's going to invade your jungle over here, it will see him, but at the same time, he hasn't been going this way. And you can predict that like from their tendencies. Every time that Rek'Sai's come up this way, he's been just going this way. And you can rewatch this whole thing and you'll see. He's not going this way. Even whenever he's ganked you, he's only ganked from down here, really. Well, I guess he did come down from over here once, but he favors the bottom side and going up like this. This ward's not very valuable, and if you wanted to make this ward more valuable, right, you wanted to catch them going into your jungle over here, or maybe you wanted to set up for Baron, then why do you place a ward here? Because this ward gives you the same knowledge that this one would give you. Like, okay, right, so Rek'Sai comes down this way. Well, you don't need this one anymore. So these are redundant wards. If you want to put a pink over here, which you had plenty of time to do whenever you put the pink ward down, then you could have. So at least 3 times I question your wards this game. You also don't roam at all on a high roaming champion in a poke lane. You don't predict jungle pathing at all. Your builds are all, what is it, static? You don't update them. You don't have good wave control. This is a really good push. You guys did an excellent job pushing this. Um, what you had right now is the bottom wave was pushing out, top wave was pushing out. Camille was here earlier making sure that it was going in. So that way someone had to respond up here, and you guys were just pushing middle. This is a really smart push, and I don't think that you necessarily called it, but you just killed 2 people, and you took 2 turrets mid. This is very smart. And now you would just leave. You don't really want to be staying that extra time. They had finally grouped again, and your team wasn't grouped, and then they just started trolling. So that's good. Um, well, if you're saying you didn't want to do anything because Malphite had ult, then this what you do right here is cocky. Malphite still has ult, and you walk back in twice. That is what I'm talking about. You overstay here by yourself. So your reasoning there doesn't make sense. Yeah, that's a stupid thing because look where your team is, and then down here. So if they kill you right away with a solo Malphite ult, it's a 5v3. They win that. The reason that you don't want to blow an ult on just one person is because let's say they're not a priority target, and then all of a sudden you've wasted stuff, and it's a 4v5, yes, but the enemy still has all of their abilities, so they can hit multiple people. But in this context, it'd be a 4v3, 5v3. A 5v3 where you guys had, I guess you had everything except for Ezreal's low on mana. So that's the only real bad thing about your team right here. But this is the reason why you don't want to be looking for it, and that they're all respawning, and that they have a good team fight. So that's just more of an example of you not watching the map. And then whenever the Camille comes back, you could have been looking for that a lot sooner. Yeah, I don't know if you could have looked for it sooner, actually. Let's see. Yeah, you could have looked for it a little bit sooner, but not much. I think that's still fine. I don't think you really need to flash there either, since they were all stuck in the ult, but it's okay. Tristana was the one ulted, and yeah, you could have easily just taken that step because that's now you're in like melee range. You didn't even need a like, yeah. I think that you could have even ulted from over here. So that's not an excuse either. You can't see my mouse? Okay. Well, just know that from where you flashed, your ult range would probably have been able to hit them. See, you were right here. That's a that's a really close distance. You could ult them from there. But you flash into melee range because look where you are now. And that's, yeah, you don't need to do that. So I would be trying to get a little bit of control on Baron. You have a free inventory slot. Buy a pink ward, set it up somewhere over here. Your team has a good pick, like I mentioned. If you had just baited the Baron, you could have easily killed like 4 of them. So that's something you should also be looking for. You bought you bought 1 pink ward this game, and I think that since you put the ward over here, it was in a redundant spot. Um, but that's a good habit. Buy pink wards. Just do it more frequently and think about what you're trying to control. Um, okay. Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't be down here right now. Uh, this wave looks like it's going to be pushing to them already, and you come down here to fix it, right? That's why you're down here. That's not a good reason. That's not a good reason. Yeah, well, you know, it's the same thing about getting out of base soon, right? Getting out of base soon, or standing over here. You were saying you're not thinking about it, or you were greedy, or something like that. Well, if you want to win games, you got to be playing like you're, you know, everything you do matters. These things matter. It may not have mattered this game, but if it gets you 1 loss or 1 victory, that means that it matters. And whenever you see someone doing all of these things correctly, that's how you get those 80% win rate people. And why you don't want to be down here? Well, it's fucking obvious, right? Baron, right? Their mid turret is down. This is already going to be pushing. So you know what your next logical thing is? Vision control over here and push top turret. And if you're going to be splitting, right? If you're going to try and divide your focus, Camille should be the one that's bottom, right? Not you. But since you're down here, you are stalling the game. Because you are down here, they are going to eventually respond to this wave, but they're going to respond to it anyways. It's just in the meantime, your team can't get anything. Because, yes, they're respecting the minion pushing over here, right? But look where the Soraka is because we're not grouped. She doesn't have to group. Ezreal's over here trying to get vision control on this probably, but you know what? He's not grouped either. So all of these are picks, potential picks. They can kill you guys and start coming back. And you know how you avoid this? You ping this fucking turret and you group on it. You get vision control and then you ping Baron. But instead you go down bottom lane contributing to the problem. Not the solution, the problem. You're walking into their jungle without any vision. I think that you saw some of them. Yeah, you saw everyone. Okay. Yeah. And you go back to this. Um, yeah. You could have been a potential pick there, but since they sent so many people for you, you probably would have gotten something up here. Um, but if you look at the same thing, it's going to take you a lot longer to rotate back to this, right? Because you have to respect the three of them still being there. Meanwhile, they can go like this. They'll be here first. So this is going to turn into a 5v3 pretty quickly, or 5v4 rather. Okay. I'm actually okay with you continuing to push bottom here. I just don't like the decision to come down here to begin with. And I guess your team kind of just closes out the game here. Right. So to highlight what your problems are again, you don't predict the jungle path. You don't ward in ways that would give you any kind of information. You shouldn't have been able to spot the Rek'Sai on your first ward. That was a fluke. Um, but you wasted a lot of your wards, including the pink one. That was redundant. You go AFK mid lane a lot. I hate it whenever someone pushes out a lane and then just doesn't move. That's really bad. That is the time you create to even just go missing and create pressure. Whenever you are sitting middle like this and you're waiting for your team to win or lose the game because, you know what, you didn't ping at all this game except for like once where you were pinging the tower, say, hey, come save this tower. So you're waiting for your team to set up things. Like over here, your ult was great, but you waited for the Camille to set that up. That's the style of just waiting to get carried. That's not a good style. You need to be looking to set up proactive plays, and by that, you need to be predicting where people are going to be going and where you need to be. So I told you Camille top lane was getting dicked early because, you know, the Rek'Sai kept ganking her. You didn't do anything to stop this. You didn't do anything bottom, even though your bottom lane was winning and they created this huge gap for you. All you did this game was sit in lane. And that's a really, really bad habit. Um, you you also were warding over, like, yeah, not warding, standing over here at the start of the game, and you told me you just weren't thinking about it. That's another bad habit. Every game you need to be thinking about these things because every game matters. You rotate down bottom. I didn't like this because it shows you're not focusing on what objectives your team should be taking next. And if you're thinking about, oh, I'm going to get this tower, right? Well, if your team was strong enough to take this tower without you and take the game without you, then okay. But that shows you that this tower didn't matter. And if you're drawing the Tristana away for you, let's look at your scores real quick, right? So Tristana or you? All right, you're going 1-for-1 with who you're pulling away, but you're level 13, she's level 12. You have slightly more kills. You have just as valuable items in crowd control, right? So if you're trading yourself for someone else, you better make sure they are more valuable in team fights than you are. And in this case, I don't agree with that. I think you're more valuable as Annie with a team fight than even Tristana is. So this is a very silly idea to be down here. Yes, it worked out, but you see how the extent that this worked out? It showed you that this tower that you were pressuring was worthless to begin with. because your team won the game without it. You also don't manage waves to respond to whenever your jungler is ganking or invading something. You're never able to in a position to help because you're always just trying to freeze your lane. The times that you did go aggressive on Lux, I thought were good. I didn't really find a problem with that. It's weird that where Rek'Sai came from over here. I don't think he should have been right there. So that was fine. It's just that to begin with, you should be setting yourself up so you can respond to things like this because Lux at least twice had the ability to go and show up to things that you couldn't. And then the final thing is you start chasing down that Rek'Sai kill for no reason and then don't manage your wave for the final time with pushing it out for a proper recall. So vision, jungle path, your lane, like wave management and rotations. And you see how that summary sounds? And I told you that that doesn't explain a lot just with those like four simple punchy things. Because this whole game, you saw what I was talking about. This rotation doesn't matter. But why doesn't it matter? Because your team got this without you, and it showed you how much that you being here did. If this Tristana was over in this fight, and you had gotten this tower, but you got wiped, would that really have been worth it, ultimately? Because you could have taken the game. No, it wouldn't be worth it. Okay. So, I think that's it for this game. And yeah, that's it. You got any comments, any questions, or anything?